A very warm welcome to everyone who is actually listening to this particular session. My name is Krant, and we will be doing a session on human resource from the NEL series. So today, I want all of you people to understand that this is one of the most awaiting subjects that we've been waiting for all of these days. So this particular session is more deep down into human resource. So let us start with the key components of human resource on what exactly we will be learning today. The first one, if you can see, we will be learning about introduction to human resource, and of course we will be learning about the key functions of HR, and the third one is emerging tools, trends in human resource, because only when we understand the pulse of human resource, where we need to start, how do we evolve, and how do we merge in human resource, that is when we can probably go ahead and become an expert in the human resource industry. So let's quickly dive down into the introduction to human resource. So I hope everybody was been waiting for this particular session about how we can do the resource management in a particular better way. So let's start with the introduction to human resource, wherein I would like to define the human resource into two divisions. The first one we would probably can talk about is the defining human resources. Now, when I talk about defining human resource, what exactly do we look in defining the human resource? If you can see, this is not definitely a love sort of a class, but then I would just like to say that human resource encompasses the individuals who form the workspace of an organization, playing a pivotal role in its success. It involves managing the life cycle of employees from recruitment to retirement and is crucial for organizational effectiveness. Now, when I talk about exactly defining human resource is actually defined as an asset looking after a particular individual in an organization from hiring to the retirement. It is just not about just joining and getting retired, but rather it's also about evolving through the cycle of professionality in the particular organization we work for. So human resource play the most important role in understanding the asset management. And then we have the role of an HR in organization, which we all have been waiting to understand, and we are all here to learn about the role of HR in the organization. Now, when I talk about role of an HR in the organization, first I want to tell you people that a role of an HR, that is TAG, talent acquisition. Now, when I talk about talent acquisition group, I want all of you people to understand that TAG HR plays the crucial role in hiring and firing of an employee and the cycle of joining to maybe firing in an organization. So that is the reason why we need to understand the role of an HR in the organization. Now, when I talk about the role of an HR in the organization as defined as TAG, talent acquisition group, we also need to understand the definition, isn't it? If we don't have the idea about it, then what is the use of learning the HR, or maybe why is it that we are learning the HR today? So let's understand the definition of it. HR is responsible for various functions. Now, when I talk about various functions, we also include talent acquisition, which I have told you, and then training and development, which is one of the key factors, because if you join the organization and if you don't really develop yourself, so I always come up with a formula that says improvise, adapt and overcome. Now, when I talk about improvise, adapt and overcome, it is just not about learning what you do on an everyday basis. It's also about learning something that you don't know and developing yourself by getting trained by an expert. So that is the reason why we say training and development in the HR organization, or maybe HR role in an organization. And then we have performance management. And then before I go ahead with anything else, let me also explain you about the performance management. Now, when I talk about performance management, it's not just about calculating your performance in an organization, but also understanding where were you before and where are you now? Like, for example, when I started my career as an HR in one of the reputed organizations, I joined as a telecaller or maybe a recruiter. But eventually, when you grow to an HR or a vendor management human resource, that is when you really grow in your own path. So performance management is more about rating yourself, expanding your memory, or maybe developing yourself into a better way and encouraging your own methodologies in human resource. So that is why performance is always being measured, and that can be done and will be done by an HR by himself or herself. So I want all of you people to understand performance management is the only key factor for your appraisal. Now, when I talk about appraisal, everything is money, isn't it? So let's also look after the rest of the things that we will be covering up in the role of an HR in organizations. And as I told you, performance management and employee relations. Now, what is employee relations? Now, when I talk about employee relations, so my dear lovely students, always I've been telling that HR is being divided into 3 divisions. Number 1, TAG. Number 2, TMG. Number 3, TEG. Now, when I talk about TAG, Talent Acquisition Group. Number 2, TMG, Talent Management Group. Number 3, TEG, which is also called as Talent Engagement Group. Now, when I talk about Talent Engagement Group, that is when we come up with employee relations. Now, why is an employee relation very important in an organization? Guys, you tell me, once you join an organization, what if you don't understand your own acquaintance or colleague? It's very important for us to understand the team, or maybe whenever you are working in a team, it's really important for us to understand another employee as well, because competition is a key factor for development. That is the reason we also are here to understand about employee relations. And then we have, it ensures that the organization has the right people with the right skills and the right positions. Yes. And HR is the only person who chooses a right person at a right place. In fact, we are the gods, So that is the main reason why we are learning an HR. HR in organization, HR in defining itself. So that is the definition and importance of an HR today that we have learned today. In the first part of the class today, we will be learning about more in depth of an HR, and then probably we can dive deep in. Now, evolution of HR management. Now you can see a big circle that says past and present. Now we talk about HR was actually having different terminologies. HR also had different stages of evolution. Now people before has called us evolutionary facts, and many people call us as just a manpower. But then I want all of you people to understand that if there is a proper human resource in a particular organization, then I could really say the manpower management is going to go for toss. So that is the reason why we also need to understand the evolution of HR management, which I have clearly mentioned out here, historical context and the modern HR practices. Guys, HR is not a practical learning that we do from a notebook. It is an experience that you get from the expertise. So that is the reason why we also need to understand where the past was and where the modern methods of HR is in. So now when I talk about historical context, let's understand the briefing of the HR context, which also speaks about the concept of HR management has evolved significantly over time, transitioning from a primarily administrative role to a strategic business function. Now we all understand how it has evolved. From primarily administrative. Now imagine when the HR was initially executed in the organizations, it was a pretty small administrative thing wherein we just hire and you just keep a person into a particular role, and we never look after what's happening around that particular employee. So that was the past again. Now, when we talk about the future of HR, and a company stands because of an HR, that is the reason why we are talking about historical context here. Wherein we also know that the HR was evolution which reflected the increasing recognition of the importance of human capital in driving organizational success. When we don't have a human capital in an organization, for example, let's imagine we get into an organization. Let us imagine you have a problem. Whom would you approach? Your colleague? What would your colleague do? Nothing, isn't it? So before, it was very fecal in understanding where and how to form up a cycle in the human resource. But however, the future and the present generations have evolved in the human resource, and then we have now the modern HR practices. Now today, that's the reason I mentioned today. Today, HR management is characterized by a focus on employee well-being, diversity, and inclusion, and the use of technology to streaming processes. It has become a critical driver of organizational culture and performance. Now, what does this all mean? And the previous maybe the heading of historical context, we've known that HR was at a form where we were just noticed as a part of organization, but now we are the face of an organization. HR are the face of the organization. Why? Because an employee well-being, for example, you join an organization, maybe after like 5 or 6 years, you might think of jumping to another organization. Now, when you want to jump to another organization, what would another organization look into you? Because now you're an experienced person. So a different organization would look at your experience. Now, when I talk about experience, it's also about you hunting down the different diversity markets and understanding the values of work culture in the different organizations. So that is the reason we say these are modern HR practices. Now, it's also not about just the human capital. It's also about developing the human capital to a vast market. Now, what is developing the human resource to the vast market? It's also about understanding where and how a human can evolve professionally, and giving all the knowledge and the skills that are required for a human to develop him or her in that particular organization, in that particular process. That is now the human resource. Now tell me, the whole science of evolving as a human being professionally is being derived by the human resource in the organization. So that is why we say it as the modern HR practices. So welcome all to the new world of HR management. Now, how do an HR department function? Now, I want all of you people to look at here. This is the most easiest thing that your people need to concentrate on. HR is being divided into 3 divisions. Number 1, recruitment and selection. Number 2, employee development. And number 3, which is employee relations, which I always have said you, TAG, TMG, TEG. Talent acquisition, talent management, and talent engagement. That's how we define 3 divisions of department, the HR department. Now let's see recruitment and selection. What is exactly recruitment and selection? A proper defined notes that you can probably take out from this. The HR department is responsible for identifying. Now, if you are in the TAG, you are responsible for identifying talent, needs, sourcing candidates, conducting the selection process to fill the vacant positions within the organization. Now, as I told you, hiring at the maximum cost. Before I speak about hiring at the maximum cost, let me also make you understand. For example, if an organization really needs to fill a process or to fill a bucket of employees in a particular process. It's really important for an HR to understand which sort of crowd do I have to concentrate on. And also, being an HR, in acquisition, it's really important for you to understand what are the protocols. Now what are protocols? You cannot just call a person to an interview and say you're a select. You need to understand, you need to judge, you need to evaluate. Judging is a very wrong word, but I could say you can evaluate. You need to evaluate a particular person in different strategies. That is why we always say we have rounds of interview, isn't it? It's never just go and get selected. You have rounds of interview, and you need to go through that rounds of interview and get selected to be a part of an organization. So that is the main cause of being in recruitment and selection. And of course, trust me guys, being in the first one, the recruitment and selection, is a fun part, because you're gonna have a vast experience in identifying different people across the world. And also, this is the best part about learning the science of psychology. An HR is also a person who can understand if the person really going to join or not. So that is why we always keep saying human resources are also the gods of judging. So that is why we call them as maybe the demigods. And then we have employee development, which I'm going to speak about now, which is also called talent management. Let us have a brief notes about employee development. HR facilitates the learning and development of an employee through training programs, performance appraisal, and career development initiatives, ensuring continuous skill enhancement. Guys, also let me make you sure that you should understand HR is not only responsible for hiring and firing. They are also responsible for your enhancement of your career. Now, if tomorrow you are really with good knowledge, that is because of an HR, because in the previous organization that you will be working for, that is the organization which is going to look after your performance appraisals. As I told you, every quarter mile you have an appraisal, and your human development or human resource development is more about concentrating on a human development professionally. So that is why, as I told you, performance appraisal, career development initiatives. Now, what is career development initiatives? Now, when I talk about career development initiatives, we also need to understand that career development initiatives are more of developing your methods of delivery. Now, a person is going to play through an email. A person is going to be really good with the presentations. A person can be really good with verbal communication. So we might never know which person is good with what content. So finding that particular content in that particular human being and using it for the purpose of the company is also called as career development initiatives. And we have ensuring continuous skill enhancement. There are many fun activities that happens around the company, and you see many employees enjoying in the company. They say, you know what, the employee, we have 100% of 100% employee satisfaction in our company. How does that work? That works with an HR, and an HR plays a crucial role in making an employee a superior in his own work or her own work style. And then we have employee relations, which I always spoke about in the previous notes, which says employee TEG, talent engagement group. Now, managing employee relations, conflict resolution, and creating a positive work environment are key responsibilities of the HR department. Let us get back to the ground reality of what happens after you join in a company. Once you join in a company, you try to find out somebody whom you like, isn't it? So once you try to find out a man or a woman whom you like, you try to form teams. You try to form teams, and when there are many teams across the the work professionalism. Once imagine in the work environment, you find out different teams, different castes. Now, when you go and join in one corner of India, you might have a team from South India, you might have a team from North India, you might have a team from East and West as well. So now people are going to form their own teams in an organization, which is completely wrong. That is why it's very, very important for an HR to look after. In the recent times, we also heard about many news that comes out as an employee have committed suicide, an employee have gone through a lot of miscellaneous misunderstandings and etc. and etc. and etc. So an HR is only responsible for managing conflicts by stopping people to fight in an organization, by stopping people to have a misunderstanding about another employee, because at the end we are all humans, isn't it? We all have to live for our own style of working, and it's also really important for us to understand that personal and professional is completely different. You cannot merge both of them and probably plan to grow in the sector having relations in the work culture. So it's very wrong. So that is the reason why we have come up in this new era to give you a heads up about talent engagement, which says an HR is also responsible for try to control the conflicts in the organization, and also to probably help manpower or the employees to have a good key responsibilities, because every employee is accountable when he or she joins in the company. So that is why we say an HR, that is TEG, talent engagement people, are also a good hired employees who is going to work for manpower services. Now let's talk about HR management career opportunities. Now we all know that yes, we have taken an HR position, and now how do we evolve in the HR positions? Now let me tell you about this. We have two spectrums here, wherein I would like you people to understand that the first one is HR specialist roles and strategic HR leadership. Now when I talk about HR specialist roles, the fields of HR management offers diverse career. Yes, dude, why should I join an HR? Why do I have to do my MBA in human resource? How do I develop myself? Because of course it is really important for us to understand it's not about only the pathways in the HR, but also to understand how do I evolve, how do I grow being an HR. So guys, today here I would probably like you people to note it down that the field of HR management offers diverse career opportunities, including roles such as a recruitment specialist. We have training coordinator, HR journalist, and compensation and benefits analyst. Now guys, these are the new terminologies that has come up in the era of growing, the modern HR techniques. So now I also want you people to understand that HR journalist is also an HR. Compensation and benefits analyst is also an HR, wherein you will look after how much compensation is a particular employee getting and how much do we have to increase in his or her standards. And then we also have training coordinator, wherein there should be an HR who looks after the entire training strategies, and they play the most important role in having a key interest in looking after a defined part of an employee in the company. So that is the reason why they're also called as training coordinators. Trust me guys, training coordinator is an amazing job. I've been in that and I've enjoyed a lot. And let us talk about recruitment specialist. Now when I talk about recruitment specialist is more about having experience in data management. Now for example, a company asks you, my dear so and so, we have a recruitment coming up, we have a requirement in our company, and the particular job role needs to have a good percentage in their BTech, and they should be a non-technical graduate or maybe technical graduate, and she or him should be from a good comprehension skills. So now what is that you're going to do? You're going to go through the database, you're going to go through the different portals, or you're going to check in your database that you have, and you're going to try to find out the real source for the real job. Because what is the use if you just called a random person for a defined job profile? So it is very important for you to understand the job profile, because I always keep saying a recruitment specialist is somebody who needs to have a vast amount of database. Because if you don't have your own set of people that you can call in for an interview at any point of time, then what is the use of you being a recruiter or an HR? Because immediately no person would just hop in just because you have called. It's all about your data. So trust me guys, start developing your data if you're an HR. Now, let us talk about strategic HR leadership, which we have and which I have put an image. Teamwork, that itself should define the entire content, but however, I'm going to give you a little glimpse about what is it all about. As organizations recognize the strategic importance of HR leadership roles such as HR manager, HR director, and chief HR officer have gained prominence, offering opportunities for impactful decision making. So guys, the main thing is, dude, yes, I'm going to be a recruiter, but recruiter is all about working for yourself. And you talk about HR generalist, it's also about working for yourself. And also the compensation and benefits analyst is also about working for yourself. But when are you going to grow as a leader or as an opportunity specialist? You all have to remember that teamwork plays the most important role. Now, at least imagine you have hired people in different process of the same organization. Many processes are going to talk about you in the organization, and they're going to have an idea that this guy or this woman is extremely good in hiring. That's when you're going to hit a stage different. That's when you're going to expand, or that's when you're going to go up, level up in your hierarchy. Now, when I talk about hierarchy, it states HR manager, HR director, and chief HR officer, and also offering opportunities. Now, you have your own methods of growing in this real world. So I need you people to understand that it is not just about hiring and firing, but it's also a vast knowledge in opportunities for an HR as well. So let's go with the next thing, which is the section 2, key functions of HR management. But before, let us go once again, let's have a quick glimpse about what you have learned about today. So let's again look at the slide which says definition of importance of HR, wherein we have learned about the definition of an HR, and then we have learned about the evolution of HR management and the HR management functions, and also we have learned about the HR management career opportunities. So this is the stage 1, and in the next episode we will be learning about the next strategies of developing in the HR management. So I want all of you people to once look at this video once again if you have any sort of doubts, for having a better glimpse about the same thing. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the episode 2.